Welcome back to our last talk of today. Once again, live from Interpack. Day 2 is nearing its end, and we are finishing off by looking at partnership once more. I am joined by Bianca Monk, project manager at FUTURY, and you are bringing together big companies and upcoming startups. So it's about collaboration, partnership. Can you tell us what FUTURY does exactly?
Yes, so as you already said, we bring startups and corporates together. We are somewhat an open innovation platform where we first find a topic which is interesting to tackle sustainability. So before we had the mission is our sustainability initiative. So the first mission was about waste, and we were concentrating on packaging. So how can we make packaging more sustainable, recyclable, and bring it back to the loop? And we thought that many big corporates face this problem along the whole value chain of a packaging. So from resourcing to packaging producers and then to the retailer, and then at end of its life at the recycler. So we thought it would be very good to bring these people together to talk about problems which affect the whole industry, and then try to find startups who can solve this problem for everyone.
It sounds like a very lovely idea. It's also very fitting here in this environment where loads of companies and people are coming together, from very big brands of the packaging industry to upcoming startups, like I already said. You also had a very big event yesterday. You had the kick-off event of the Mission Waste here in Düsseldorf as well. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yes, so yesterday was a big event. We are going into the third round of the Mission Waste. So as I said, back in 2019, we had the very first Mission Waste. Last year, we had the second round. And this year, the third round just started yesterday. What happens at the kickoff? So it's the first event where the startups that were picked by the corporate partners will get to know the corporate partners personally, because we think via online meetings it's never the same. So we bring them together on stage and they can pitch their idea in front of the corporate partners. But the other side is also giving an, overlook of what is already happening in the industry. So for example, our premium partner McDonald's was on stage and showcasing one of their projects, which is Cups to Books, and just showing how much is behind such a project. It's not like, okay, let's make books out of cups, but you have to think everything through. And this is also a stage where corporate partners can show what has been already they have been doing, how they did it, what were the struggles, so other corporate partners can also learn from it. And that's why we also have the exchange between partners, because we believe that many problems cannot be solved by startups, but through corporations also between big corporates such as P&G, Nestle, McDonald's, because they can learn from each other, and many problems don't only affect one company, but many more. And we want to have this exchange between all these companies. And I think as a packaging company to get in touch with, for example, a recycler from PreZero is very difficult, and get in touch on an innovation level to get to new ideas, to form new corporations is really beneficial for everyone along the whole chain. Yeah. This is what we try to do during our events: showcase the ideas, networking, exchange, learn from each other. And this is literally what we did yesterday.
I guess the word kickoff already implies that it's the first state of a progress that's going to follow. Can you maybe take us through the following steps? And you told me before that there's actually one company here that you, I don't know, can you say developed or helped to grow? Yeah. So explain to us where this journey can lead.
Okay, so I can give you the showcase of one of our startups. It's Resida. They applied for our initiative back in 2019 as single entrepreneurs. They were not a team yet, and our team at FUTURY, we matched them together based on their skills and know-how, and they were given a problem statement from the industry. So it was, I don't know how recyclable my packaging is. And then the team, they went into the incubation phase, so they also went on the kickoff event. They somehow pitched their business model, their business idea, and then they went into deep working mode where they had various workshops, coaching, mentoring with our general partners like Bain & Company, which helped them to build their business model so that it works, that it, if it goes like out of our incubation phase, it still is, does survive. And with the corporate partners, they have the insights from the industry, so what is needed. And with, for example, Bain & Company, they get like all these other skills to build a truly sustainable business around it. And then during these 3 months, they have support from the corporate partners, from the general partners, and then we have an interim event where they will show a little bit of what they have been doing. And then lastly, we have a final event where they show, okay, this has been happening, this is what we achieved, and we want to achieve more in the next 3 months and the next 6 months. And oftentimes they will showcase, okay, we already have a cooperation with, for example, Kaufland, and they can announce, and they say, okay, we want to go as partners after the program as well. So the 3 months program actually is just like we would say a safe space for corporate partners and startups to negotiate a way to work together. We don't have like this one where we say, okay, you have to do it like this. Mm-hmm. For every startup and every corporate partner, it's different.
You already talked a bit about the chances that come with these partnerships. Usually where there's light, there's also a bit of shadow. So talk to us about the challenges that come with partnerships that are maybe on the sides of big corporations and on the sides of startups. What have you observed during the last years and the work you do?
Okay, so during my work at FUTURY, I have noticed that oftentimes startups get in touch with corporates. They say, I have this great idea, it will give you huge benefits, and the corporate partner is too slow in responding or testing out, or they say, oh no, we cannot, like our system is so complex, I have to ask this and go to there and ask for permission. And sometimes response time takes up to 6 or 9 months, but startups oftentimes don't exist anymore after 9 months. So this is also one struggle that I see. But then sometimes if the corporation is like at another step where the corporate say, okay, let's try it out, the startup's too small to scale up this quickly. So if alternative packaging, they say, okay, let's try it, and they're like, can you produce in tons? And they're like, no, I cannot. So we see these struggles like with slow response and slow scaling up like on both sides. But somehow the startups still overcome it, and it always depends on which people you're talking to, and if the corporate sees the drive in the startup, they believe in it and they go the long way. I think one good example is also Circulution. I don't know if you've already heard about them. They also founded back in 2019 in our program. And I think just now they launched their first pilot with Nestlé, and they have been working since 2019 on the idea. So startups have to have a long breath, as well as the corporates. And then cool corporations like between Circulution and Nestlé will get into the supermarket.
Mm-hmm. I guess you already mentioned one of the chances here right now, that startups are smaller and have maybe shorter communication streams in some ways. Are there other chances that lie in these corporations that you would like to highlight?
Yeah, I think another chance that the corporates especially have is getting in touch with new innovations just by exchanging, because sometimes you're like in your own bubble and then you don't see outside of that bubble. You're like in your operations and you just want to go down this lane, but if you exchange with also other corporates. That's why we want to have the exchange between corporates and corporates. Sometimes just like looking outside of your bubble, you're like, oh, this has already been working. Many people have already tried this. And this is also an opportunity at our initiative where you can see like above your line and you can learn more from the startup. Agile working, sometimes it's just taking a little bit of risk and getting a lot out of it, and this is also a chance which I can see from working with startups.
Mm-hmm. Taking this picture of looking out of your own comfort zone, in German we would say across the own plate. I don't know the English equivalent, but maybe the picture comes across. What prejudices have you noticed with regard to corporations, but maybe also startups that sometimes might stay in the way of these partnerships developing? Yeah.
Yeah, what I oftentimes meet, like, I am the bridge between those two. I communicate a lot with startups. I communicate a lot with corporates, and I think the biggest prejudice is corporates are not flexible. Corporates are not innovative. Corporates don't want to do this. But oftentimes, for example, if a startup sends an email, if it doesn't get answer like within a week, they're like, oh, they don't want it, or they're not interested. But oftentimes they have to turn that around internally, and they are.
Yeah.
I think I just heard an example at the Verpackungskongress from the DVI where they had like 6 months response time because they had to like go internally, and they have been testing, and afterwards they're like, okay, yes, let's test it after 6 months, and the startup is like, so since then the solution already changed like 5 times. And I think this is really interesting to see that this is a prejudice which still holds up, that corporates are not interested, but they are interested. They just don't have like the time to answer so quickly, I think.
Mm-hmm. Verpackungskongress in Berlin was also where we first met. You held a workshop there, which was, there were a lot of listeners and very dynamic exchange between the companies. So yeah, this theme overall, partnership, seems to be very present in the industry and very important to find ways to work with each other's knowledge and key factors, kind of. You spent the day at Interpack, I've heard. What are your impressions from the fair, especially looking at networking maybe and partnerships? What have you taken from today so far?
So today I've been quite impressed with all the machines. I've never seen like a slicer or how this really works. I mean, I've seen many shows on YouTube where you can see, for example, von Die Sendung mit der Maus, where you can like look into the machines and see how it's sliced. And this was quite interesting. I've been at Weber Maschinenbau, and they gave me, like in German you say, the whole große Rundfahrt about like from the cheese block, what happens with it, and going to the back. And I think this is really interesting to see that as a consumer, you don't see this. As a consumer, I didn't know that you have to like think about so many steps. For me, it's like, okay, this cheese is sliced, and then it gets into the packaging. It was really interesting. And I'm not a packaging expert. Like I got into this area last year. So I've been to the Fachpack, and now it's my second packaging fair, so I'm still like an outsider, and I'm still looking at everything with like those crazy eyes. I'm like, oh, I didn't know, and looking at those huge machines. So this was really interesting, and just exchanging and getting a little bit more information on the packaging, and there's so many different packagings. But what was, I think, the best is at almost every stand I could see that sustainability is a topic. I could see that the companies are changing, they are trying, they say, okay, this is not the best solution, but it's a way forward. Sometimes I ask the question, so is it truly recyclable? And they're like, to be honest, the customer still has to separate it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it's not the perfect solution, but it's a better solution. And I think this is great movement to the right direction, and we're still not at the goal yet, but it's better to take small steps than none, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think some of us at Packaging Journal, we always feel quite the same when we're at these fairs and seeing everything live. Maybe to sum it all up, is there one tip that you would give big corporations and startups on how to form working partnerships?
Okay, this is a hard question.
Can you find one? Or you can also do two?
I think I have like for both sides. For the startups, try to tackle a problem which is relevant. Not what you think is relevant, but which will change, like really change something in the industry. And for the corporate, it would be to to work together, not only with startups, but also with other corporates, because there's so huge problems. For example, if you ask a startup to produce tons of something, this will not work. But sometimes you just have to look at the person next to you in the value chain and connect with them. You will already find good solutions. And just talk about it.
I guess that's what Interpack is also all for. Bianca, thank you so much for stopping by, for giving us this insight. And yeah, I thought it was very uplifting and inspiring as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.